Now, the latest cold snap has brought renewed focus on the plight of people who are homeless and sleeping rough in our cities. In a moment, we'll hear from former 2FM DJ Nikki Hayes, who became homeless during her battle with addiction. But first, Katie Marie Murnane has spent some time with the Simon Community Outreach team in recent days.
I'm not a piece of dirt. I'm not where I sleep.
Yeah, okay, perfect. We'll just lock up.
Every morning, the outreach team from Dublin Simon walk the streets meeting people who are sleeping rough and try to find beds for them.
You've worked with the Simon community for 9 years.
Yeah.
Like, what have you noticed over those 9 years? Have things changed?
I just think homelessness has just affected so many more people and so many more communities, you know. There's not a walk of life that hasn't been affected by homelessness.
15 years back, yeah. Some people did with me something bad. Then I start then I start to drink alcohol.
Okay.
But I don't know how I can stop.
We've been out in the streets over the last few hours and we have met 12 different people who slept rough in Dublin City last night. One thing Megan has noticed is the increase in women who are sleeping rough.
It's very hard to get a hostel for women. There doesn't seem to be enough hostels for women. There's plenty of hostels for men, but as a woman, a homeless woman, it's very difficult. I've been weed on. I've been men who walk by and they peed on me. But last night it was cold water and ice. Some young fellas, I was very scared because they were very threatening. They walked by and they threw cold water and ice on top of me, you know. And just stood there for about half an hour doing this and laughing and calling me all horrible names and everything, you know.
Yeah.
We are seeing increase in numbers on our streets. Particularly we're seeing couples, we're seeing people with pets, people that are in need of a single room, kind of them more complex cases. There's limited options for them in terms of the hostels and in terms of what's available. So unfortunately for them people, a lot of them kind of choose to stay on the street and they don't avail of emergency accommodation.
As Megan says, some people remain on the streets, sometimes because beds are limited and sometimes by choice. But others, like Anthony and Shane, eventually move into emergency accommodation, where life can still be unstable.
When I was living on the streets, there was no help to get me. Like, I was in a door frame and I was only 15 in that door frame. And nobody came to help me. I got abused, I got smashed, I got bit, I got stabbed to get me for being homeless. I'd love to see a change. I'd love to have my own house by the end of the year at this stage. This will be 5.5 years, this will be 6 years.
Long term, I'd like to get my little boy back in my life, find my own little place and get a stable job, and that's it, and just live a normal life like everybody else.
After a few hours walking around the city with the outreach team, we crossed paths with Teresa again.
So, we haven't seen you in a few hours. What have you gotten up to since?
So I was sitting down here tapping, and I went for a walk and tried to score, then couldn't, and came back here tapping.
And how does it feel like when you're tapping?
Very demeaning, the looks people give you, it's horrible. Yeah, like the looks I'm getting now. It's not nice at all, you know. Their main look is like a question mark on their face, why? And, you know, and I go, stop and talk to me and I explain to you why, you know what I mean? Don't look wide and go like this, you know. Stop and, like, you know, talk to me. And I'm a human being at the end of the day. And even if you don't give me a shit on, it's nice for you to say hello to me. You know what I mean? It's nice to get a smile. A smile can change me with my whole day.
And that report from Katie Marie Murnane. Well, we're joined now by former 2FM DJ Nikki Hayes. And Nikki, you're very welcome and thanks so much for coming in to us. I wonder, just watching that, does it bring back, you know, difficult memories for yourself?
Absolutely, yeah. I find actually lately walking through the city centre can be quite tough. And I'm doing some work in there, so that can be quite tough. But, you know, even just the lady saying there, you know, I'm human. A lot of people forget that because you're in a position where you've lost everything. You know, a lot of the times for me, I know I'd lost my family, I'd lost my job, I'd lost my house. And then you lose who you are as well. And, you know, you're in that position where you just feel so low. You have a lot of shame. So if people are looking at you in a certain way, it's really going to affect you hard. And also, you're just feeling, you know, for me, I remember just feeling dirty, feeling like a nobody, really lonely and isolated. And it's a horrific place to be. And I think what she said there actually in the VT, that if you just stop and talk to someone and say, how are you? That could just really make such a difference in their day, such a difference.
You were saying as well, we saw some of the people there had animals, and you brought your cat with you when you had to leave your house, and you ended up on the streets. But then you had to give up the cat. Yeah,
so I had Tallulah with me. She was a little cat, and I carried her around in a pink Peppa Pig bag that belonged to my daughter. And she was the last thing I had. I'd lost everything. I lost all my possessions. I had nothing left. And I had to give her up. Actually, Brandon, one of the guys who works with Dublin Homeless Awareness, they're young lads who go out on the street and do some like paramedic work. He had come over to me and said, you know, it's not really fair to keep the cat in a bag. You know, her nose was scratched from trying to get out of the zip. So I had to hand her over, and I howled when they took her off me, because she was the last thing I owned. And for me, then that was it. Everything was gone.
What was it like then, you know, because we were talking about the cold temperatures, particularly at the moment, and when the temperatures plummet, or when it's lashing rain, or when you have both, you know, can you get warm?
No, it's a cold like I've never experienced before, and I hope I never do again. There was one night that I was out actually in November, and it was as cold as it is now, but it was a lashing rain as well. And I was absolutely soaked. I was freezing right to the bone. I was shivering. I had a sleeping bag, but it was soaked. And the outreach team from the Simon community, they didn't have an emergency bed to give me, so they gave me another sleeping bag, which then became wet too. But it's that kind of wet to the bone, and you just can't get rid of that cold feeling. It's horrific.
And when was all this, Nikki? When did you become homeless, and how long were you homeless for?
I was homeless for 3.5 months, so it was from August to November of 23, okay. And it was a result of being deep in addiction. I had lost my family and my friends and my home and my job, and I had nothing. But even in that situation, I had pride, and I didn't let people know how bad things were until I think a penny dropped and I realised, you know, I can't survive this. And I decided to go to treatment reluctantly, but I did go, and that's when things started to change for me.
Okay, and if I just bring you back then to when you were on the streets, in terms of getting a bed, was it difficult to get a bed in a hostel? Did you have to travel far? How did that work for you?
Yeah, it was really, really difficult. So I had a problem getting on the free phone, which is where you can ring for emergency accommodation, and it was due to the fact I didn't have a notice to quit from my landlady, and it became a paperwork thing. I was going through Threshold, I was going through DCC, a lot of different places, going up to Parkgate Street, could not get a bed. So, you know, this was going on, and the only time I did get a bed was 3 times, and that was through the Simon community, their outreach team on Capel Street. They knew I was sleeping behind Jervis Centre, and they used to come down to me and they gave me a bed, but it was an emergency bed, so it was one night only. Okay. But I can tell you, the heat that hits you when you walk through that door is like nothing you could ever imagine. You're just so grateful for it, and to have a shower and to have clean socks. It's just, you know, it's something that I hope nobody else ever has to experience. It's horrendous.
And you're here now, as you say, you've pulled yourself out of addiction, you're off the streets, obviously.
Yeah.
Congratulations on all of that. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm still going through therapy. I'm still rebuilding relationships with my family and my daughter and my friends, and that's going to be a process. I have to remember I've been through a program, they haven't, so I have to do it at their pace. But I'm doing okay. I'm back working. I got my own house, my own apartment a month ago, so brilliant. I now have a roof over my head, which is just unbelievable, and I'm so grateful for everything. I'm so grateful for all the small things in life. I don't take anything for granted, and I try to do what I can to help others. Like this Christmas, I'm going to go out on outreach because I feel this Christmas I need to give back. So I'm much more aware of other people, and I value people over possessions 100%.
Well, it's a privilege to talk to you this evening, Nikki, and thank you so much for coming in to us.
Thank you.